Hey, what's up, everybody? It's just Charles. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, and when we give you a perspective on things is how we see them. And in today's episode, the topic is how Nick Wright totally destroyed his legacy. But before I get into the topic, I want you to please make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content, and also be sure to check out this show on the Dreamerspro Podcast, which we have linked in the description below. With that being said, let's just get straight into the content here. So I know that the title is a little bit conspicuous, but I didn't want to give it away to you guys immediately. So now I'm just going to let it out the bag. So basically, what I'm going to be talking about is how Nick Wright, really contributed to being one of the main catalysts to really tarnishing the legacy of Kobe Bryant. Now, for some of you guys out there who may not know who Nick Wright is an American sports TV personality. He hosts a sports talk show called First Things First on Fox Sports, and I think he's been on that show for about 3 or 4 years or so. I don't know. I'm not sure. He originally started hosting the show with former, I think, Hall of Fame football player Cris Carter, and when the show first started off, it was a little bit different. I never really took a liking to Nick, but I guess some people did because maybe they thought maybe he had some hot takes, or maybe the way he would sort of deliver his points. He always seemed a little bit, angry and all of this stuff. So maybe some people took a liking to that. Certainly Fox Sports did. They thought that, hey, listen, this guy would do well on TV. So they went with him. Now, when the show started, him and Cris Carter, Cris Carter would always sort of provide a counterbalance to a lot of the points that Nick Wright like to put out there. And as time went on, we quickly discovered that Nick Wright was a huge LeBron James fan. And I think earlier when Fox Sports was trying to get sort of a sense of what people thought about this new show that they were thinking of introducing, they had a segment on Undisputed where they brought in Nick Wright and Cris Carter. And I think the whole general theme of that particular segment was, the Jordan and LeBron debate. And Nick Wright basically said, LeBron had already passed Jordan. And at that time, I think LeBron had 3 championship rings. So I think that 2 or 3, I'm not sure. And I think that's when Nick Wright started to make a name for himself. And I think in media in general, or in entertainment, I think a lot of people like this sort of get their starts by saying outlandish things or the way that they behave on TV, and that's sort of how they make a name for themselves. So that's really where Nick Wright sort of got his start on TV, as far as I know. That's as far as I can remember him. Now, talking about Kobe Bryant. Now, Kobe Bryant, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Kobe's been my favorite basketball player of all time, right? And what I started to notice towards the tail end of his career was that I was surprised to see the level of disrespect that a lot of media heads have for Kobe, right? It was never the case among players, meaning people that played the game of basketball. None of them really had this type of disdain for Kobe as when you're comparing them to media heads. But really towards the tail end of his career, meaning after he tore his Achilles, is when people really started to come out of the woodworks, right? All of them started to come out of the woodworks, the Chris Broussards of the world, and others. And they really started to come out and really say things that, as a basketball fan and someone that watched Kobe play pretty much his entire career, started to say things that really started to make me scratch my head. And really a lot of sports fans and even former NBA players, they would just scratch their heads and say, what are these guys even talking about, right? They would say things like Kobe wasn't all that good. When they were talking about the Michael Jordan comparisons, they would sort of skip over Kobe, right? For reasons that seemed to be inexplicable, right? And as you sat there, because you don't have a voice, at the time I never had a voice, you would just sit back and sort of you would just have to listen to what these people were saying, and you would ask yourself, like, what are these guys even talking about? Since when did Kobe become this bad? And it made me begin to wonder, was there something personal there? Was it something after his Colorado case? Was it just that they simply didn't like Kobe Bryant? So as time went on, I know a lot of people that watch our show also watch First Things First and other shows. And I know we have a younger audience that, that's within a certain, age range, 18 years and a little bit older. And these guys may not be aware of just how good Kobe was. So let me just quickly explain his stats to you, because if you're solely reliant upon Shannon Sharpe or Nick Wright and these people to tell you the story, or some other media heads to tell you the story of Kobe, then you're going to be you're going to be grossly misinformed. Now, Kobe for his career averaged 25 points, 5.2 rebounds, and 4.7 assists, right? But Kobe has had some historically great seasons when we talk about scoring and all of this. Now, to put all of this into context, if you listen to Nick Wright and these guys, you would feel like LeBron, the things that he does, he's the only one that's been able to do them. He's the only one, right? If you look at his numbers, you're like, oh my God, who else can put up numbers like this? All right. Kobe Bryant, for some of you guys who don't know or may be unaware, Kobe Bryant won 5 NBA titles. Okay, 5. He won 2 finals MVPs. He won a regular season MVP award. He was an 18-time All-Star. For 20 years, he was an 18-time All-Star. He was a 4-time All-Star Game MVP. He's been on, 15 All-NBA teams. He's been on 9 All-First defensive teams. Let me just say that. 9 All-First. So for a 9-year stretch, there was no one better at their position at defending than Kobe. For a 9-year stretch, okay? LeBron has been in the league for 17 years. He's only been the best player defensively at his position 5 times, right? Kobe has been on 3 All-Second NBA teams, so he's been on 12 All-NBA defensive teams. He led the league in scoring twice. I won't even go into scoring numbers. He has the second highest scoring output in the history of NBA, and in one season he was just simply unguardable, and there was nothing you can do with him, right? Now, Kobe, if you look at his numbers, is one thing, but you also have to look at the impact. Kobe, when he played, was the most feared NBA player in the entire league, period. Kobe was one of these guys that you could never talk trash to. If you don't believe me, just go online, search other NBA players talking about Kobe. He's just one of those dudes you couldn't. You couldn't, because if you did, he was going to tell you, he was going to tear you out. And some people listening to this, people that follow Nick Wright and others, they'll say, well, Kobe won 5 NBA championships, but he had Shaq. Fine. Let me put this into context for you guys that you may be unaware. Kobe has 5 NBA titles, right? He won 5 titles with 2 Hall of Famers. Some can even say 1. He won his first 3 with Shaq. The next 2 he won was with Pau Gasol. I don't know how many of you guys out there would consider Pau Gasol to be a Hall of Famer. He won 5 titles with 2 Hall of Famers, or 1.5 Hall of Famers. But let's say Pau Gasol makes it into the Hall of Fame. Let's say 2. If you ask Nick Wright, LeBron has won 4 NBA titles with 4 Hall of Famers. Wade, Chris Bosh, Kyrie Irving, who's going to be in the Hall of Fame unless some haters out there feel otherwise, and Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is going to go into the Hall of Fame, right? He's like a unicorn type talent. But if you leave it to these guys, they'll never tell you that story. Now, one day, listen to Nick Wright talk, he decided to say that Kobe Bryant has never been the best player in the NBA at any point. And that's when I lost all. That's when I stopped taking Nick Wright seriously, because if you ask other NBA players, they'll say different. But if you don't believe me, here's an audio of Skip Bayless asking Steven Jackson about this very question about Kobe. So take a listen to that.
Close. He's the closest.
There'll never be another LeBron James either. There'll never be another LeBron James either.
Was Kobe close?
Kobe was close to MJ, very close. But LeBron is night and day. He's not even. They're 2 different players. You can't compare Kobe and LeBron, but you compare Kobe and Jordan.
If you had to take Kobe or LeBron, who would you go?
I already know who you're going to
I would take Kobe.
You like scoring.
The reason why I like Kobe, relentless. He the Mamba. That killer attitude.
Killer.
He's gonna go out and play hard every night. He's not gonna care who he's playing against. He don't want to work out with you if you're on another team and be your friend in the summertime. You know, I love the fact he has that killer instinct. He's about him and his team. Kobe's different. He's a killer.
Man, I can't even believe you stood up here and said that, Jack.
Kobe's a killer.
Man, you know what LeBron is.
He don't have that killer instinct like Kobe had.
He does not, and you know it.
Can I ask you a
Like
question?
Jordan,
Everybody
he don't
else
have
knows.
that killer
Let me ask you a
instinct.
question. If he'd have had Shaq.
Now, if you listen to that, Shannon Sharpe was very quiet because he was like, oh my God, how can you say something like this? But what Steven Jackson gave you in that soundbite is truly what a lot of NBA players think. Shaq has asked the question, why are we, whenever we talk about the greatest player ever, why do we skip over Kobe? Charles Barkley has asked the question, why do we skip over Kobe? Allen Iverson has asked the question, why do we skip over Kobe? These are contemporaries of, these are people that he competed with and against. And they're asking the question, why are we skipping over Kobe? But if you listen to Nick Wright will tell you Kobe wasn't all that great. And this is my issue I have with Nick Wright. And this is the reason why I can't take him seriously. Because Nick Wright is too biased towards LeBron. Let me say this. I'm a Kawhi Leonard fan. He's currently my favorite player in the league. Let me say this because there are a lot of dweebs that, you know, there's some dweebs that watch our videos, right? And their panties are going to get up in a bunch when they hear this. So let me say it for you guys. Kawhi Leonard is my favorite player currently playing. I don't have him ranked ahead of LeBron all time. Let me say that again. I don't have Kawhi Leonard ranked ahead of LeBron all time. I don't have Kawhi Leonard ranked ahead of LeBron all time. Now, why do I say that? What I'm saying is I'm objective. Just because I like a guy doesn't mean I have to turn into a complete fanboy and start saying absurd things, right? I can't put Kawhi ahead of LeBron all time because he's not as accomplished, right? Some people will see LeBron winning his 4th title and say he's better than Jordan. How? How's he better than Kobe? This year, he wasn't even the best player on his team. It was Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis led the Lakers in points, rebounds, steals, blocks. The only thing LeBron led the team was an assist. But we're going to gloss over that like as if it never happened. Nick Wright would never even bring it up. They don't even bring it up when they talk about it. So for me, I think Nick Wright, especially Nick Wright, because of his platform, because he has his own show, has really done the most damage to Kobe's legacy. And I know a lot of Laker fans may be in love with Nick Wright and say, oh my God, you know, he's been supporting the Lakers. He never supported the Lakers. He supports LeBron. Before you guys start jumping out the window for this dude, he's never been a Laker fan. He's been a LeBron fan. Kobe, that a lot of Laker fans have a great amount of reverence for, Nick Wright never even liked him. You guys can go back and do your research. So for me, some people say, well, it's a dead horse. Why aren't you letting it go? I'm not letting it go because Nick Wright shouldn't be allowed to say stuff like that. And unfortunately, what some fans or some people that watch sports feel like, just because Nick Wright speaks well, he must know what he's talking about. And just because other NBA players who come on there to debate him, maybe they can't speak as articulate as him, they feel like, oh, they must be wrong. Just because somebody speaks well doesn't mean that they're smart. Let me just say that. Just because they have a large vocabulary doesn't mean that they can make sound arguments. Nick Wright speaks well. A lot of his arguments when it comes to basketball and all of this make absolutely no sense. Yes, he picked the Lakers. He had one right pick. He had a correct pick picking that the Clippers would lose. Wow, his first correct pick in God knows how long. But it doesn't mean that he knows what he's talking about when he talks about basketball. It doesn't mean that, right? Nick Wright, if you had somebody that could really argue this guy properly, most of his arguments will fall flat. He's just gonna get flustered. He's gonna get angry. He's gonna start screaming. That's a summation of Nick Wright in a nutshell when you listen to him talk. And for me, I don't think there's anything impressive about it. Now, obviously, he has his platform for reasons I don't understand. But when it comes to the Kobe thing, I'm not letting it go. And Kobe fans should not let it go as well. So that's my thoughts and opinions on this topic. I know some of you guys may dislike it, but that's your opinion. You can feel free to dislike it. It's it's a free world. We all don't have to like it. So for me, this is what I think about it. And what I want to know from you guys is quite simple. For those of you that are willing to be honest, has Nick Wright done the most damage in tarnishing the legacy of Kobe Bryant? If you want to be objective about it, whatever you guys think, please leave your thoughts and comments in the comment section below. Once again, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. And be sure to check out some of our other videos that we have linked at the end of this video here if you enjoyed this video. Once again, this is Charles here from Dreamerspro, wishing you guys an amazing day. Peace.